Okay, let's dive into this presentation. I've wasted enough time talking about it. I think I may post this presentation on YouTube, so if this is for YouTube, hello YouTube. Um, this is being done on my live stream for Twitch right now as I'm speaking. Um, no, you're okay, Woody. You're okay. Um, if I do post this on YouTube, I want to make a better one that's a better presentation for this. It's a lot more simpler, but this was my first presentation I've ever made, and I kind of actually really liked it, and I want to make more. We'll see if I do. Um, that being said, this presentation I spent like probably 30 hours on. All the photos besides the photos of Australia and a jellyfish are all my photos I've taken from Australia. And none of this presentation has pictures of snakes or spiders in it. I wanted this to be safe for people that maybe had fear of those. I spent a lot of time researching this. I also sent out a form to a bunch of Australians that I know and asked them to fill out this form saying, hey, I would love to hear your experience about Australia snakes and spiders. And some people were like, oh boy, I have stuff for you. And then other people were like, I don't know if this would be really great because I don't really have anything for you. I want to do a separate video of me reading the forms I've got, like the things I got in the forms, because the information will surprise you. Just to kind of give you like an idea of what this form had looked like and the questions I had asked, I'll tell you what the questions I asked. I won't go through the form, I think, now, just because I want this to be the presentation. I don't know how long it will take, but the questions I asked were kind of like roughly where people had lived or how long they've lived for. I think 2 people, one was someone that lives here now but visited Australia for 3 months, and the other person that did it came from a different country over to Australia but has lived there since they were like a kid. Now, the reason for this was that I wanted to tell people about, I know Australia seems really scary for the snakes and spiders, and by all means, it is absolutely fucking terrifying. But that being said, maybe it's not that bad if you stick to certain areas. But some of the information I'm going to tell you is going to scare you. I just want you to know that. You will walk away from this being like, if you didn't know this information. Anyway, so some of the questions I asked was how many snakes you had seen, what types of snakes, had you been bitten by a snake, and then it goes into spiders. Have you seen them? How many? Have you been bitten by one? In Australia, not a lot, but it sounded like a good amount of places actually require you to have medical knowledge, like CPR, choking, like how to help if someone's choking. They don't do the Heimlich there. They do something like where you go like this against their back. I don't know much about it. We don't do that here. We do the Heimlich. But someone had said that fast McDonald's required them to know this knowledge, and that knowledge also included how to care for snake bites and spider bites. And so I asked about like, what did you learn in these classes? They mostly listed what I had just told you all. And then what are some fun and scary facts about Australia, which is wild. So there were some wild ones that actually blew my mind. And then I said, what are your tips to avoiding spiders and snakes? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice because of talking. I did ask, would you rather be bitten by a snake or a spider or deal with a kangaroo? Min called me crazy. Min Credible, love Min, called me crazy for asking this question, but I'm telling you, you Aussies are crazy, and some of the answers I got were wild. I'm telling you, I want to do a separate video talking about the forms. I will keep all the names anonymous. I won't say who filled out this form. I want to keep that information private, and I'm really thankful that they did, give me this. I had 23 people fill it out. But yeah, and then I asked people, would you rather be bit by a venomous snake or a spider? That answer also would surprise you, especially with the information I've learned. But anyway, so all this information that I have, sorry, 1 second. all this information I have regarding snakes and spiders, I have gotten from either the Australians and then backed it up with Google, or have also like Google things as well. So all this information, according to online, should be factual because I went through and made that. I was actually surprised with how many Aussies actually didn't know certain information. Considering it's really like pretty. It goes into a lot of. Australia goes into a lot of like how to deal with snakes and spiders, and I was actually surprised with some of the info. I will get into that as we go. So, how about we get into it? Let me figure out some better music though, I think, for this, because this isn't getting me into the vibes. We need some like presentation music or something. I don't know if this will be good. Okay. I hope it's not too loud. I will, if people have questions, feel free to type in the chat. Depending on the questions, I may wait till the end to answer them. I don't know who's gonna watch this, so I'm just putting this here for you all to enjoy and all that. But yeah, this also was my first presentation. I now looking back after making it, I could have made things a lot more consolidated. I could have made it better. But I figured this is my first presentation. I have a lot to grow from it if I'm going to continue making presentations. But why not just show you all what I worked on? Sorry, I had to say it. There's a quote about that, Woody. For YouTube, Woody had asked, which is more dangerous, snakes, spiders, or us Aussies themselves? Put in, quote, nope. I can't think of what that's called right now. Parentheses? Is that what that is? But sorry, had to ask. There's actually a quote. I took some quotes from my form and put it in here. So brackets, that's what it's called. Thank you. All right, so like I said, this isn't the most well done, but it was my first one and I wanted to share it with you all. I worked really hard on it. I spent about 30 hours on the presentation themselves and spent probably 100 hours researching about different things. I researched about the different snakes there were and the different spiders in Australia. I went down this like crazy deep dive that I even started having like nightmares about snakes. That one was a wild one. I had one where it was almost like a Halloween movie where snakes were popping out of trash cans and stuff. Anyway, hi Pro. Anyway, so this is my presentation about how to survive Australia. How are you, Pro? Snakes and Spiders edition. Well, at least to help your odds. So most Americans that I've met, and meet other people in different countries, I don't meet a lot of different people from different countries in person that are too scared to go to Australia. But most Americans I've met have been like, I can't go. I'm too scared of the snakes and spiders. And you know, but they wanted to go. I haven't looked at this in a while, so like I actually don't remember what's on here, so we're just gonna wing it. I didn't go through it. So but yeah, they're scared of all the deadly creatures, and I'm here to confirm that those fears are real and true. Australia has about 60 plus dangerous creatures. That is including spiders, snakes, jellyfish, octopuses, ants, bees, platypuses, and other creatures, including the cassowary. Those ones are wild. Anyway, but what would I know that if you know about Portland, supposedly we are in a war zone, and we don't have to worry about the deadly snakes and spiders and all of that. We only really have to worry about guns and the war zone. But what would I know? I'm just an American. I was born and raised in Portland. I did live in Illinois, and I've been to like 25 different states in America. I've done, I think, 3 halfway across the country road trips. So that's how I've been to a lot of different states, but I have been to New York, Pennsylvania, things like that. I've been to Australia 3 times in the last year. In the last calendar year, I first went to Australia, I believe it was October 9th of 2024, and since then I have been there 2 more times. In total, according to my math, I have been there for 48 days total, and I have never seen a snake being in Australia. My first trip was 3 weeks. That was my first international trip. Oh yeah, if you should see some of the TikToks about America fighting, not America, Portland trying to deal with ice. There's a bunch of people in blow up dolls right now. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so second trip was 9 days in February, and my third trip was in August, September for 18 days. Um, so these are all my trips for this is some of my pictures from Melbourne. Some of these you may have seen, some of them you may have not seen these pictures. I spent a full week in Melbourne, and it's pronounced Melbourne. There's only a handful of Aussies that I know that pronounce it as Melbourne. So I don't want any Aussies coming for me because that is how most of Australia pronounces it. I have confirmed this with my own experience, but also in GTRP, which was an Australian. Thank you, Clement. I I had in RP, for those that don't know, I used to do GTRP in an Australian based server, so I had a ton of Aussies. And I went around asking Australians to pronounce Melbourne, and I think only 4 out of like 30 people pronounced it as Melbourne. So, anyway. So, I also spent a whole week in Sydney. My first trip was about 3.5 days. Sydney. Oh, I didn't even put that in there. I figured everyone knows how to pronounce Sydney. My second trip was 4 days, and that was a blast. I went to Manly Beach. That was really cool. We did like a coastal walk and stuff. I never saw any snakes. Or I don't even think I saw spiders in Sydney. This picture, this shark picture, was in the girls' bathroom at the Gold Coast. So I went to the Gold Coast. I spent one night there, but I spent like 2 or 3 days in Gold Coast. But I just said 2 days because I didn't want to be like 2.5, 3 days, you know. But yeah, this was in the this was the only like shark sign I ever saw in Australia, and that was like next to like the river opening. So Gold Coast is all right. It's all right. Um, this is Brisbane, where I spent most of my time, or pronounced Brisbane, not Brisbane. So I spent the rest of the time in Brisbane, Sunshine Coast area, like that whole stretch. I spent some time there as well. So what else would I know about like Australia? I know a ton of Australians, and they're actually not paid actors that I can tell. So, anyway, so let's get into some facts. Did you know? Now, I have people from New Zealand and Australia that hang out in my chat. You all would know this information. You all would know that Australia is actually pretty fucking big, but a lot of Americans don't actually know how big it is. So these pictures are not mine. Like I said, pictures of Australia, like map wise, I didn't obviously take. So all the other pictures are mine. Anyway, so Australia is about the same, it's a little bit smaller than America, 7.69 million square kilometers, that's 2.9 million square miles. With America being 9.83 million square miles, 3.8 million square miles, whatever, kilometers, anyway. But that's only like, that's not including Hawaii and Alaska. But if you add that, then it makes it much more bigger. So now, this is what I thought was, I don't know why some of these aren't popping up. Oh, they're popping up for you. Cool. They're not popping up for me. Now, the population for Australia is 27 million people in Australia, and Texas has 31 million people. So that is kind of a mind-blowing fact. I did say that Australia is like kind of feels more like a coastal town, and even the big cities it feels a lot more laid back. There's just less people. And I didn't even know like the amount of people compared. So, but anyway, also another crazy fact is, did you know that most of Australians live about 60 miles from the coast? I think it's like 30 k's, 30 k's, 30 or 40 k's from the coast. So all of Australians are like, there are people that live in the middle, but most of them are going to be on the outskirts. Also, for the Americans, Crocodile area is just the northern tip. Northern Queensland is where like all the crocodiles really are. You won't find crocodiles in the rest of Australia. Now this is the one that might blow American minds. I feel like New Zealanders know this stuff, but at least for me, I didn't know that Australia was made of a lot of, like 20% of it, maybe a little less than 20% is bushland. And bushland is like kind of around the coast, outside the cities, but it's before the outback. Like the outback is pretty far in to Australia. So it's just kind of like bushy areas. This is something I took that I really liked. It was a little walkway and stuff, really cool. One of the things I didn't mention in my live presentation, but in Australia there is certain vegetation that only like grows or like blooms or propagate. I can't remember all the technical words for it, but they don't flourish until there's actually like fire that happen. So that was something I've heard. But sometimes certain places you'll go in Australia, you'll see these trees on fire and stuff, and some of them are meant to like deal with it. It's pretty cool. It's also sad because fire is not good, but they do have burn-offs and stuff. I can't remember what that's called right now, but there's a certain term that I had heard, that they burn off some of the bush to help. So but yeah, a lot of people, I think outside of Australia, get the outback and the bush confused. You just see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's the bush. Like you'll just know when you look at it. And one of the cool things I thought, yeah, it releases nutrients, but there's like certain plants that literally won't grow unless there's been a fire. Like the seeds won't pop out or something. I can't fully remember what it was. I think there is some here in like the States that can happen as well, but it's really common in Australia. Yeah, they have a lot of controlled fires and stuff. Australia and the Queensland right here, Daintree Rainforest, that is the oldest rainforest in the world. It's estimated to be 180 million years old. This is a picture I took. Like I said, all the pictures I took besides the maps and one jellyfish I took. These are the Glasshouse Mountains. This is in between, like this is just above Brisbane. It's very interesting. But yeah, some of these trees are for like paper trees. These are like farmed trees, so you'll see them like perfectly lined up. But yeah, these are really cool. It kind of reminds me of like Arizona a little bit, but less deserty, more like trees and dry, and it's just very different colored. These pictures I also took, obviously not this map, but I took all of these pictures as well. This is what the bushland looks like. This right here, this picture is going to be the ocean right there. They have bush turkeys in Australia. When I told my mom about that, she was like, what? This is like right by the beach, and I have a picture somewhere of a turkey just chilling on the beach. So that's pretty common. I've seen a lot of bush turkeys just hanging around. This plant, this tree right here is like the arm span of like width. It goes like I could even like hug it. Like that's how wide this is. This tree right here. This one was really cool. They have a tree like this somewhere in Brisbane as well, like right in the city. It's really cool. They have this tree that I call a dick tree. I have a picture of it somewhere, not in this presentation. I wanted another presentation where it's just like my experience and what I've learned in Australia that's not about snakes and spiders, and I think it'd be really cool to do that. Let me know if y'all are interested in that. But the dick tree, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it. Anyway, this was some like hotel I had visited, and I remember looking at this picture and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I went to this place. It's really, really beautiful. It just kind of looked like I was in a jungle, like from up top, but it was really beautiful. It was like, I had a bunch of dogs and stuff. So this is not me just making things up. This is, I took this when I was last in Australia. So you can't like walk in these areas because they're trying to, it's a work in progress. Just like with us. So anyway, let's get into the outback. So I thought this was really important to explain kind of what Australia is, like what it looks like, and kind of what you're, you know, about it, you know, like let's talk about the snakes and spiders, but like, you know, geography, I can't speak, you know what I'm talking about. This thing right here, we need to know about it. So Australia, the main cities I would say are Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, and then Perth. Alice Springs is like directly like dead center of Australia, and it's like right in the outback. Cairns, that's pronounced Cairns. Don't ask me about it. I don't know. That's how I've been told it is, but this is where the Great Barrier Reef is, so if people want to go to Australia, they're going to think about going here. Like I said, this area is all like crocodile area. And then there's also an island right over here called Magnetic Island. I think it's Magnetic Island. It's home of like the most it's like one of the most populated areas of the death adders, which is a snake, venomous snake. I think they're really cool looking, but they are something else. We're not here to talk about the different types of snakes unless you all want to know that at the end of the video. But yeah, if you're going to come to Australia, you're going to come to like Brisbane, mostly Sydney or Melbourne, and there if you're in the city, you're not going to see things. But anyway, outback. So the outback is about 80% of Australia. So this is what I had gotten from the Australian government website, and it says 81% of Australia is broadly defined as rangelands, aka the outback. I've never heard it called rangelands, and when I had asked Daw about that, he was like, I had never heard of it called the rangelands, so that's just what it is. You can tell by like reddish desert and mountain ranges. Some of the largest deserts are in Australia. I, at the top of my head, cannot remember what those are. But it's some that you all have heard of. So this was from one of my forums. Someone said it's very icy, it gets very cold, but also very hot. Think of it as the Barrens from the World of Warcraft. I don't know what they're talking about. I have played the World of Warcraft, but this is the picture I took from Google. I didn't take this. And that's what they have told me what it looks like. And from pictures, that's, I feel like what it looks like. It's just red desert with some trees and some mountains in the background. So the closest main city to the outback is Sydney, and that's 500 miles inward. I want to say, I'm just estimating, I don't actually know in Ks how much. I think it's about, it would be like 800 Ks. I misspoke earlier with the 50 miles. It would be like 90 Ks. I misspoke on the conversion. Let me double check. 50 miles. Yeah, 800 kilometers. So that's how far it is to the outback. Because people were like, oh yeah, did you go to the outback? It's like, no, it's literally like a day's drive away from like most of the cities you're gonna go to, unless you like fly to Alice Springs or like you're up in Cairns and stuff like that. But like I said, the main cities, which are going to be Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, are like the main cities that people will go to Australia for. So yeah, red, dusty, harsh landscape. This is kind of like from the world view of what it would look like. you know, Australia's actually like pretty green from the places I had gone to. Very like lavish and stuff like that. Um, so let's get into the do's and don'ts with Australia, because this is like kind of what you're here for. Don't touch the wildlife. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't pet the roos. Don't touch the wildlife. Um, Now, it is acceptable at the zoos if it's allowed. So at the Steve Irwin Zoo, there is an area that you can go into. It's a caged off area. You have to like clean your hands, and you can pet the kangaroos that are not up in rocks. So there'll be like little areas that they like to go when they don't want to be touched. And so it tells you kind of how to handle them. This I had been taken to a university, which I had heard is where kangaroos can hang out, and we did see some. I didn't realize that kangaroos were built different. They play rugby. Um, so, do keep a safe distance and watch your surroundings. Always pay attention to kind of where you're at, even if you're kind of like, I mean, besides the city, because the city you're not gonna see snakes and spiders. Like it could happen, but it'd be like a very very rare case. Spiders are everywhere. You'll kind of see a little bit if you're like looking in plants and stuff. But the first trip I had gone to Australia, that I was there for 3 weeks, where I had gone to Melbourne for a week, Sydney for 3 days, and then like a week and a half in like Brisbane, Gold Coast, all that, I didn't see a single snake or a spider, but I also wasn't looking for them. But then when I've gone the last 2 times, I've went and looked for the spiders and I saw them. So if you're staying in the main cities, you're not gonna see them. But if you're out, you know, in the coastal towns and things like that, you can see them, and so you obviously want to pay attention to your surroundings. This is the kangaroos in the rugby field prepping for their game they have apparently, and there was about 8 of them, and there was a couple joeys, and then like the dudes, the males, they were big. So but this one here, I have another picture of me. I These kangaroos were off in front of me like 30 feet, and as I was sitting here, they came over and came closer. I was literally like this, trying to just like but I do have a picture where there's someone really close trying to get an up close picture, but they still kept their distance. The moms, you do not want to mess, like, you want, like, with any animals, like people that are in America, they have heard about bears, where you do not mess with the cubs because the moms will come at you. It's the same with the kangaroos as well. So never approach the wildlife. Like I said, they came up to me. Um, yeah, this is where the caged area at the Steve Irwin Zoo is. This is like about 45 minutes away from Brisbane. So they have wallabies, kangaroos, and I think they're red kangaroos. I think that's what they're called. And the red ones are, I think, endangered. So these are koalas. You can pet koalas at the Steve Irwin Zoo as well. I thought this might be kind of a cute little picture to show you all. Someone had at the presentation had asked if you had to worry about the koalas, and I said no, you don't need to worry about the koalas. I've never seen a wild koala when I was there. I did see koala signs, but I did kind of surprise the crowd. It was about like 60 people, and I said that koalas can actually run up to 30 miles an hour, which is like 60 k's roughly, for about 45 seconds when they're scared, which blows your mind. But also koalas, I haven't completely fact checked this, but I'm pretty sure I learned this at the zoo as well. And I think Australians, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But koalas, the reasons why they're so like sleepy and loungy all the time is because they eat eucalyptus trees and they are poisoning themselves with that. So I should probably double check that. Okay, no, now it's saying that they can have that. Something about high energy, I don't know. I guess they can have that. So I could be wrong on that. It's saying differently. They like to conserve their energy, but no, it's the eucalyptus leaves have low nutritional value and are difficult to digest, so they have to eat larger quantities to get enough energy. And so wait, now this one's saying has to break down the toxins. I don't understand. Anyway. Okay, so when he said eucalyptus leaves contain many toxic compounds, but koalas have a specialized digestive systems that can break down these toxins. Their liver isolates and neutralizes the toxins, and their large intestine contains special microorganisms that help them break down the tough leaves. According to Google here, it also says this could be why because it's like, it's very demanding energy-wise. And their body needs proper time to like digest the low energy food. So anyway, that's the correct information. So how to survive Australia. For those that are visiting Australia, if you decide to after this presentation, because I very much recommend it, is a very beautiful country, amazing food, and it just has some really amazing wildlife and plants and things that we don't have here. But for just emergencies, things and just some fun fact information, 000 is 911. From what I've heard, I don't know if this is factual, but I've heard if you call 911 in other countries, it will wire it to like their emergency line. I don't know if that's true, but it's 000 over there. So how to survive is basically just don't touch things. Don't touch their plants, don't touch the animals. One of the best advice that I have heard, if it's brown, they say don't fuck around. But if it's brown or colorful or cool, it's probably deadly. Same with like frogs, because they also have, I believe, venomous frogs over there. If they're pretty, don't touch them. Pretty, like wildlife, is poisonous. So, on walking trails and beaches, watch where you step. I actually avoided stepping on a blue bottled jellyfish getting out of the car. We were, my last trip, we went to some like island we can drive on, and you actually go camping there, which I thought was really cool. And I hopped out of the car and I looked, and I literally almost stepped on this thing right here. This isn't a picture of it. I should have taken it, but it looked pretty much like this. Like it was blown up and everything. And they were like different sizes all over the beach. So it won't kill you, but it fucking hurts. So if you do need tips on how to handle jellyfish, certain jellyfish like this one, don't rub the sting. It can spread the venom and increase the pain. Like I said, it won't kill you, but it will hurt. And don't touch them. Obviously, it will sting you. They do have box jellyfish, which are lethal in Australia. So just be in mind, like I said, watch where you step. I didn't step on anything because I literally looked where I was. So this is not my picture, but all the other pictures, like I said, I have taken. Don't stick your hands in places you can't see. I feel like that's a pretty good like advice for just really anything or anyone, but especially in Australia. Don't put your hand under rocks, logs, branches, anything you literally can't see. There can be spiders in there, or snakes, or other critters that you don't want to deal with. So pay attention to your surroundings. You don't want to run into an animal in an accident, like especially a kangaroo. Quoted from one of the Aussies was, "Roos are lean machines." That was actually in the article. Check your shoes and give them a shake. If you are someone that I think live in like California or like Arizona, there can be scorpions, and you've been told to like shake out your shoes so you don't actually like step on a scorpion and stuff. It's the same in Australia, is check your shoes. All right, so factual information. This information I thought was pretty mind-blowing, because when I was like, because I would tell people at work, because I work at like a high volume of people that come in, and so people be like, oh, where have you been, like regulars, or how are you, and I'll be like, oh, I just came back from Australia, or I'm going to Australia, like, oh, I wanted to go, but I'm too scared of the snakes and spiders. I don't want to die from it. And I was just like, this is kind of what started the whole thing. I was like, what is the death rate of snake bites? So Australia has about 30,000 snake bites a year, with 1 to 2 ending in fatality. I have seen up to 5 a year. It just depends on certain things. I also, with Australia being the same like population as Texas, I did look up later after making this what the snake bite ratio was in Texas, and it's about the same with Australia. So you have the same odds of dying to a snake bite in Texas. I'm just saying. Snake bite, right? No, I didn't say spider, right? Okay, so with America being about 7,000 to 8,000 a year, with 5 deaths per year. So America is way more the population. I don't actually have the number off the top of my head, but you can die from it. So Australia does have about 100 venomous species of snakes, but 12 being kind of more of the ones that people really fear. I want to say there's like kind of more like, this is according to Google, but when I had asked a friend about it, and they gave me a list of all the different snakes that they could recall that were venomous, and I feel like there was about 20, but some of them are kind of in specialized locations and things like that. So, but mostly in most of the common places, it's kind of a brown snake you want to worry about, or the inland taipan snake. So America has about 30 venomous species. Now this one kind of blew my mind, because I was like, what is the most dangerous place in the world, like, for snake bites? And it actually was India, which I never even thought about. But India has about 58,000 deaths per year, with about a 1.2 bite every year from people. So that's, I'm just saying. So, tips for snakes. The previous rules apply that I had put beforehand. Basically, don't touch things, all that jazz. So, snakes don't actually have ears. They feel things through vibrations. So, when you're in the outback or the bush, stomping will help get rid of them, unless it's a death adder. I don't know what the tips were for a death adder, because death adders, they actually stay coiled up. They're thicker snakes, and they wait for their prey to come, and then they go anyway. So snake gaiters, if you're scared, like, wearing boots and snake gaiters, and I've also heard wearing like long jeans will help you prevent from snake bites, because typically snake bites are going to be on arms, hands, limbs, legs, feet, obviously, again, some of this is repetitive information, but I still think it kind of applies. Avoid burrows, logs, rocks, and tall grass. Snakes love to hide under them, so that's why that's important. So you can't run through tall grass. I didn't hear that until this last trip. And they're like, yeah, you don't run through tall grass. So all your fantasies of running through the meadows in Australia are over. So if you see a snake, basically to back away, like, or wait for it to pass, and then you can go. But they said basically go the opposite direction. So again, the stomping is going to probably freak it out, but there is a snake. I can't remember which one it was. If it was the inland taipan or it was another one. I have the information written down somewhere, but one of them will chase you, but that one's like only one of them. So that's, I think, why it's kind of better to lean on the cautious side. And snakes are more scared of you. And basically, if it's brown, don't funk around. That was literally from one of the quotes. And according to most of the snakes in Australia, they were all like brown or had some like brown coloring to it. So just don't go near the snakes. Easy done. Yeah, they said if they slither off, you're probably okay, but still be careful. So this is the tips I got from my form. Sorry, this bracket thing's here. It's because of that I'm the one that made it. So snakes are more scared of you than you are of them. If you stop moving, the vibration of your steps will stop, and they'll most likely move on. Otherwise, you can walk the opposite direction. You'll be fine. And this one was basically saying the same thing. Don't go near them. If you see one, back away slowly. You won't piss them off. Most of the time people get bit is if they're not paying attention and step on one, or are reaching into bushes under houses and stuff without being careful. So yeah, be aware of garages. So if, let's just say, you do get bit or someone does get bit, or you're just kind of curious on how the process is, some of this information can be a little bit traumatizing. So I would just err with caution. This part does have information that kind of even scared me. So just, you can skip ahead off this one if you want. But most snakes are elapids. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, so I'm sorry. The venom attacks the nervous system, leading to trauma, my favorite. Basically, not being able to move and difficulty breathing. So there are snakes can kill you up to, in 30 minutes to a few hours if untreated. Depends on the snake. Every Aussie hospital has anti-venom, like every single one of them. And all the paramedics as well has a basic level of anti-venom. So how to do that is basically let's say you get bit right here in your arm here. I know you can't really see, but you get bit right here in the arm. So what you need to do is you need to take a pressure bandage, wrap that spot right here. You don't want your finger to you don't want it to be too tight. You just want your finger to just barely get under the bandage, and then you want to wrap the whole limb all the way up and basically immobilize it. Don't have it move, because the venom goes through your lymph nodes. So the more you have that circulating everything, the more it will go through. So having a pressure bandage kind of helps keep things like the venom in that one spot. So you want to basically restrict the flow of that through the lymphatic system. This technique was picked up in the 1970s. Again, like I said, try not to move. I did hear that if you properly put on a pressure bandage, you can go for a couple hours and supposedly move on it, but it's basically you're told not to. The less you move, the higher chances of living. And this is why the snake bites is pretty low in Australia, because there's this kind of education about it, and you can buy first aid kits with pressure bandages. So if you're out in the outback and you like to go hiking and things like that, you can buy that kind of stuff. So another important thing is to take note what the snake was wearing. Take what color it was, any markings and things like that. Like I said, most all of the paramedics and things like that have basic anti-venom, but they also have specific ones that are for that snake. So they have a blanket one. From how I understand it, they start to inject you with the anti-venom, and then as you need it, they'll give you more and more. So, but having the particular snake will help kind of find the better venom, but there's one that they just have that just covers all of them. So, I feel like I learned this in America, and it was like an old wives' tale of sucking the venom out or cutting it out. That doesn't work, so don't try it. I can't imagine it would taste good either. Actually, the bigger you are, the higher chances of survival. So take that as you will. Sometimes the bites can actually seem like a scratch and you won't even notice them. So kind of like how the bites will look as a little scratch or little pin marks or things like that. So I have heard from an Aussie, we were on a trail, we were walking, and they were yeah, some people will die from a snake bite because they don't even realize they got bit, because snake bites happen so quickly that sometimes you won't even feel it or notice it. So they'll think that they got scratched, but really it was actually venom. So anyway, so here is the more traumatizing information. Snake bites can coagulate your blood. I'm not sure if I'm saying that word right, and stop it from circulating. It can thicken it like cornstarch, like a gravy, or it can also thin it. And if your blood gets thin from a snake bite, you will bleed from your eyes. So yeah, anyway, so here's kind of what to expect. Not all snake bites are actually lethal. Snakes, I don't know what exactly pinpoints like, is it based off of luck or what? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's kind of based off of luck, but it depends on the snake size, like the size, the type of snake, and the age. I have heard this was more of a misconception according to Google, but some Australians had said that smaller snakes are more dangerous because they can't kind of control how much venom they have. But I also have seen, and that was kind of more of a misconception according to Google, but I have seen the bigger the snake, the bigger their venom glands are. And that is what's going to release that. I did watch a video someone sent of them milking a snake and trying to get to make venom come out from like a bite, and it took multiple times, and then I saw it actually, like, they take blood and it's mixed with the venom and it thickens it. That was crazy. That's on YouTube. But yeah, I've heard many different things. Sometimes it's a warning bite from snakes where there's dry bites where there's no venom, and sometimes it's lethal. It kind of just, like I said, it depends on the snake age and things like that. So basically what to expect is if you do get bit, there'll be puncture marks, obviously, swelling, there can be blistering, discoloration, swelling from that. I do have a section where it kind of goes into someone that actually got bit by a snake, and they had mentioned that they've instantly felt sick as well. This was from my forms that I took. They survived. Obviously, they filled the form. But you can, like, instantly feel sick. You'll have nauseating, vomiting, headaches, things like that. I'd like to think that if anyone's kind of just, like, having difficult breathing and swallowing, or, you know, paralysis, you should go get some help. If you're having weak muscles and blurry vision and things like that, especially if you've kind of noticed you have a bite. But I did put this information in here just so you can kind of be more aware of that. But this is what can happen. So yeah, if you can get a photo of it, that's why I said take note of what the snake's wearing. So here is some information that is from real live Aussies that did get bit by snakes. So out of the forms, 3 out of 23 people that lived in Aussie that I took a form have never seen snakes. One person was visiting, which I told this earlier, went camping in the outback, didn't see one. 6 out of the 23 has seen less than 5 snakes. I guess this isn't the information I'm thinking of that it was going to be, so this is kind of more about my form of how many people, like, what they saw, like how many people haven't seen snakes and how many did they see. So 6 of the 23, these are not like together, this is like separately, only saw about 5 or less, including one of them did gardening for over a year and never saw a snake, which that one blew my mind, because there are people that fill out my form that at their house they had a brown snake which is venomous, and they had to call snake catchers to get it. And so I'm just like, you did gardening like 30 hours a week for over a year and you never saw a snake? That just seems wild. Also, Australians, they'll keep their grass super short to help prevent like snakes not staying in it. So anyway, 3 out of the 23 saw about 10 to 15 ranging, and the rest went from about 30 to many being quoted as 70 to 100. 90% of them were seen in the outback, and about 10% of them were on foot. Now, one of the people that fill out the forms, they explained to me that they had lived in the outback, and this was they had some wild stories. But one of them, they told me that a snake had snuck into their house and it had hid in between the couch cushions to get, I believe, cool from a hot day because it was too hot. And they showed me a picture of, like, they drew out what it would look like. And their sibling had sat on the couch cushions. So they were traumatized after that for a bit. But the snake, they ended up getting rid of the snake. Yeah. So here are the other ones. This is about the bitten one, sorry. Okay, so only 2 people out of the 23 were bitten by a snake. This one made me laugh. I shouldn't laugh. But not sure what snake I was riding a motorbike through the bushland and got bit. I accepted I might die, turned around prepared to call an ambo, but I felt fine after 5 minutes, so I didn't really stress about it. That is the most Australian thing. I didn't really stress about it after getting bit. Like, they're just like, I'm chilling, I'm fine. Anyway, so this one is the traumatizing one. So they got bit by a red belly black snake. I was walking through the bush going to a front paddock and got bitten on the ankle above my shoes. I stopped walking, called out, and lay down. The venom travels the lymph node, so you don't want to move and make it spread. The other guys called it ambo, and it was dispatched. Thankfully, all ambos carry antivenom in the bush, and a red-bellied snake is easy to tell because of the colors. I felt sick. I puked up everything. I had blood in my vomit. I bled from my eyes as well, and my head felt like I would have been beaten against a rock. Red belly venom thins your blood. Ambos gave me a shot to me to the hospital where I stayed for a week until I was good to go home. 11 out of 10 would not recommend. So, just, you know. Pro, she's sleeping right now, but I will give her treats after this presentation if that's okay. Alright, so the spider bites. This one, I think a lot of people are really scared of spiders. I think more so than the snakes, which actually blew my mind. So about 3,000 people in Australia are bitten by spiders a year. 123,000 to 138,000 people in America are bitten by spiders a year. Now, in Australia, no one has died since 1980, which is when the antivenom was created. The person that did die died from the Sydney funnel web, and that's when were like, oh shit, okay, this is serious, and then they worked on making an antivenom. I do have a separate slide in this slideshow talking about the Sydney funnel web, so if you're very curious about that, we will get into it. So I think if you were to die from a spider bite in Australia, you'll at least go in Australian history, and I think there's worse ways to die. So, and less cooler ways to die than to go into down in history. So, there are 6 to 7 deaths per year happen in America from spider bites. Australia does have about 66 that are considered venomous, according to Google, but my research, there was about a list of 10. That was like the ones that you want to worry about. America has about 13 that are considered venomous. So again, this is a refresher on the rules. We've covered a lot of information. So again, don't touch things, watch where you step, don't stick your hand in places you can't see, and pay attention to your surroundings. Easy done. Shake your shoes. I think we're pretty set on that. So, tips for spiders. Again, the previous rules still apply. Shake out clothes if they're left outside. If you leave shoes or clothes outside for a very long time, just give them a little shake. I feel like we do that here anyway in America, but fun fact, a bunch of Australians didn't know this, but daddy longlegs are not actually venomous. Look it up. Look it up. They can bite humans from what I understand, but it's very, very rare because they're like, oh, they can't puncture the skin. They can, they just prefer not to. But daddy longlegs will fuck up other spiders, so yeah, they're like the protectors. My advice or some of the advice I had gotten from many Australians were huntsman spiders. Now the huntsman spiders are very big spiders. They're some of the biggest spiders in Australia. I could be wrong, but I have been advised by multiple people that they are one of the biggest spiders. I'm going to show you how big they are, so if you don't want to see that, look away. But they're about this big. They can be. So, I like to think they're kind of like silly spiders. People have found that they've been like to hide in cars. So I have seen videos where they're like Australians are like trying to get one out of their car. So anyway, so tips for gardening. If you are gardening, if you're visiting Australia, you're probably not going to be doing that, but wear gloves, long pants, and shoes. Check your car first. I put a little LOL because it's kind of funny watching the Australians like get a huntsman out of their car. The huntsman, they will eat all the other spiders. So Check your shoes. Don't put fingers in the holes. Keep car windows rolled up when driving, just because they can get in your car that way. If spiders are black, they're probably deadly in Australia. It's the Sydney funnel web, and yeah, they can be toxic to animals, but they're not toxic to humans. So they can be venomous to animals and like other insects. So, but I think the other daddy long is like in America and Australia, they can bite humans, but it's extremely rare, like extremely. So, but yeah, the Sydney funnel web and the mouse spider are black, and those are venomous, and they can kill you. So if the spider is black, stay the fuck away, unless it's a huntsman. But that guy's big. Care with moving logs and branches. Don't leave clothes in the. This one I didn't even think about when I was in Australia, but yeah, kind of check out for clothes and stuff. I did leave clothes out one time at the Sydney Airbnb I was at, and there was a baby slug had gotten on it. So, now this information is going to traumatize you. It kind of traumatized me. Maybe it won't traumatize you, but for those that haven't lived in the outback or lived where you've had to deal with spiders, so if you're in the rural area, I can't say that word correctly, or left outside, you want to or your shoes left outside, you want to dump them out, but also you can step on the toes. A friend of mine, that filled out the form had lived in the outback. They put their feet in their boots they had left outside for a long time, didn't shake it out, and they're like, I was stupid for that. And they could feel like Rice Krispies in America, but I think they're called like Rice Pops or something like that. They put their foot in there and they could feel a bunch of pops because there was a spider family in there, and they had popped the eggs in there. So that was pretty crazy to hear about. So yeah, keep your windows closed or use screens. That's like if you're visiting Australia, but also if you live in Australia, keeping your windows closed or screens will help keep the spiders out. So spider bites, care and what to expect if bitten. Pressure bandage is definitely key. We kind of went through that already. The male Sydney funnel web can kill you in 15 minutes, but there's only ever in like the history of them recording spider bites was there 13 of them. So this was according to the Australian, like, I think the city website, it'll pop up in a second. But it says what to do with certain spider bites. The funnel web and the mouse spider, you want first aid, pressurized, mobilized person, call 000. The redback I actually thought was very, very lethal. Most redbacks bites that you get, you can deal with at home. So it's only if you're having like the severe symptoms that you'll want to go. So with redbacks or other spiders, you want to wash the bitten area, soap, apply cold pack every 15 minutes. Do not eat or drink anything after getting bit. And then contact 000. With the redback, they have said, I got mixed reviews. It was like, I would only they said contact them 000 if you're like feeling sick, having a hard time breathing, basically kind of having like allergic reaction to it. Like those are kind of the symptoms to expect. So this one, capture the snake, spider, take a picture. So again, this is kind of going through the bandaging of the wound to help prevent the spread. It's kind of the same thing as snake bites. They did say do not make tourniquets. That I've heard with snakes and spider bites is to not make a tourniquet. So if you don't have a pressure bandage, use clothes, stockings, towels, like whatever you can to just try to wrap it as best as you can. And immobilizing is a way to prevent the venom from spreading, and it can delay up to hours up to it. And that's the same with if you wrap it up correctly, you can delay it for hours until you can get to the hospital as well. So, what to do expected if bitten by a spider. Again, not all spider bites from the venomous spiders will have venom. The redback, supposedly, I don't know if this is with every single bite, but with the redback, they'll bite once as a warning bite and saying, get the fuck away. Then the second one is a venom bite. So that's what I had heard. And the person that got bit by a spider that fill out my form has mentioned that they got bit twice in that as well. So spider bites are less scary than snake bites. So here are your symptoms. So I don't know how to say this correctly. The necrotic lesions, basically where it's like your skin is dead and you can lose limbs or skins. From that, it's very terrifying. Like it's kind of like a skin eating kind of disease. Those ones were like kind of more rare, and it was like only had seen like 2 or 3 spiders. I can't recall what those spiders were off the top of my head right now. But it was kind of like depending on like people's like life and stuff, if they were gonna have that kind of stuff. They couldn't find like certain like correlations between that, so it's a very rare symptom, but it can be something that can happen. But obviously if you start to notice decaying in your skin, you should definitely go see a doctor. But yeah, so with spider bites, they did say that if you get bit by a spider, to take a pin and like poke the area, not poke it, but like mark the area or circle it or take a picture of it, because that will help like show where all the venom is. So when you go to the doctors, right, because they're so small, that sometimes like it may not show, like, you know, the symptoms vary from person to person. And if you can take a picture of this spider, that's really important. Or if you can capture it as well, we'll get into that. But small lumps and swelling, skin discoloration, local blistering, itching, irritation, nausea, vomiting, sweating, burning feeling, headache. I did spell weeks wrong. Can take weeks to heal, depending on the bite and if you have a change in the heart rate. I feel like some of those symptoms you definitely should go to the hospital. This was from, a lot of this information is actually from this website, healthdirect/gov.au/spider-bites. That site was actually super helpful. And it's an Australian like government site, so super helpful on spider bites and care. It had just some really amazing information if you're super interested in that. So a funnel web spider is a medical emergency and you should call an ambulance, because that one can kill you in 15 minutes. Most redback spiders can be treated at home, but obviously pay attention to your symptoms. White-tailed spiders are not considered dangerous to humans, but I have heard you can have some interesting reactions to that. So you can have a severe allergic reaction to spider bites. So again, like I said, if you are experiencing that, you should go. So I think a lot of people know if you experience this kind of symptoms, you should go seek medical attention. But again, just covering the bases here. So the city funnel web, this one gets its own slide because it's special. The city funnel web can kill you in 15 minutes. Only 13 recorded deaths, and that was before 1980. This was the last spider to kill a human. It is only located 100 k's from like the radius of Sydney. You can't find it anywhere else in Australia, so it's only in this area, and that's about 62 miles for the people that are in America. So how to care for the bite. I don't know if this information is in here, but the Sydney funnel web, only the male can produce venom that will kill you. So they say to watch out, particularly in mating season, because that's when they'll kind of come into your house trying to look for a mate. But to care for it, if you, like I said, black and hairy spiders, you want to call 000. So basically keep completely still, use a roller bandage, pressure bandage, use a splint to keep the arm leg still, mark the side of the bite with the pen or take a photo, write down, this was also really good information, write down the time of the bite and when you put the bandage on. That information is really helpful for the paramedics and the doctors that will care for that person. So obviously wait for an ambulance, and just try to be as relaxed as possible. I have heard stories that people had gotten bit from like a snake or a spider. They called the ambulance, opened up a beer, and just sat and chilled and wait for the ambulance to show up. I don't know if you should be drinking a beer, but that's what I had heard. I don't know if that's actually factual information, but considering that was from when I was in Australia, from another Aussie telling me, that doesn't surprise me that an Aussie would do that. Like, they totally, I could totally see that happening. So, like I said, if it's a black hairy spider, you know. So again, this goes into like, you know, wrapping the area. So you get bit right here, you wrap this section, then you wrap the whole thing. Yeah, you can see it too. Like even if it's not true, I could see someone doing that. So so it said you should not be able to easily slide a finger between the bandage and your skin. So don't cut off circulation, but doing that. But I have also heard, this was not from a medical side, this was from an Australian that had done like paramedic school and had learned about this stuff. They said, yeah, you can do it where you're kind of cutting circulation off, and you can be fine. So, but I'm not a professional. This is just what I've heard from all this. So, real life early Aussies. Every single person that had filled out that form saw spiders. One person saying that they saw a spider once a day. Most quoting they've seen thousands of spiders. 5 out of the 23 have been bitten by a spider. This one was they had came over from New Zealand. So I have a scar on my arm from a whitetail from when I first moved over from New Zealand. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like 10 and had pain and itching my arm. My dad, a generational farmer, tough boys, had a look at it and said, maybe a whitetail, you won't die. I go back to bed. Next morning, tells me they're flesh-eating venomous, and you can have symptoms that range from mild reaction to death. At this point, I had large swelling and itching, so I scabbed up my arm and pretty much fine. And just have a small scar. So, this one is the person that got bit from the redback that I was telling you. So, by a redback, funny facts. Redback venom is only really deadly if they bite you twice. They bite once to tell you to fuck off, and twice to try and kill you. I didn't know I had been bitten. I thought I got nicked by a nail at work when I was lifting a box off the shelf, but the site grew redder and swelled and started throbbing. The veins in my hand and arm started popping up, and I started feeling really sick. My body felt like I had the flu as well, like everything ached. I sat down, called someone over who said it was a spider bite, and they called it ambo, and then gave me some meds, and I was good within a few days. I don't know if they had been hospitalized. It doesn't sound like it. But again, like I said, if you're starting to have symptoms where like you're feeling sick, that's when you should, like, if it's like a redback or another spider, right? This is when you would go and get help. But if it's just kind of like the person right here that had to like, oh, I got bit and it was itchy, you're fine. Again, I'm not a professional, so don't take my information. This is just to kind of help educate people on it. Another person said it felt like a bee sting. A whitetail bit my spine in the middle of summer 2022. I developed a large stinging situation that looked similar to a boil in a location of a site. It spread into a very large rash that ranged the size of my thigh. Within days, I had 3 boils spread down my leg, my left leg, due to an infection with a spider. Within a week from the initial bite, doctors were useless, and I admitted myself into a hospital where I was put through emergency surgery to land 12 infected areas due to the bite. Again, kind of more of a severe reaction, and it sounded like the doctors weren't kind of taking care of it, and so that's why they had to kind of go through an emergency surgery. But if it has boils and things like that, you definitely should go to the hospital. My dad was bit on the foot by a redback spider that was hidden in his boot when I was young, and he experienced throwing pain that numbed his foot until it was touched. He was hospitalized for a week while they fought infection to avoid amputation. He's fine now, has both feet. So this one was the one I was talking about with the Rice Krispies. So I forgot I put that one in here. To put in context, this person had lived in the outback that was over an hour drive from the local hospital. So, but yeah, they had said I stupidly left my boots outside for far too long. I remember putting my foot straight in the boot, followed by a weird resistance and some strange crunching as if I was stepping on some Rice Krispies. And I'm like, oh God. All right, so final info from the Aussies. Magpie and plovers are way bigger dickheads than snakes and spiders. When I was there the first time, it was mating season for the magpies, or nesting season, either way. And there was actually signs. And you know it's serious that there's signs in Australia because there's no signs talking about snakes and spiders, which means that it's not really like a big threat for them. But you saw like a shark sign. But I did see magpies, and it was like, this is magpie area. And it was like by a library, and it was just like this small park, and they're like, walk quickly, but don't run. Do not ride a bike. Do not have a helmet. It had like a list. I think I have a picture of it somewhere. I didn't actually think to grab it for this slideshow until now. But they said that they will swoop you and smack your head. Hi, Giblet. You most likely won't like bleed, but there was someone that told me that their teacher had gotten like swooped by a magpie and it cracked their head open and they were bleeding. So but yeah, magpies are beautiful, but they will fuck you up. But if you feed a magpie, you can supposedly make friends with it. So my mate had been hit and kicked by a kangaroo, but he tried to pet its Joey baby. Never do that. Pay attention to your surroundings. Don't be a dickhead. Don't be lifting up rocks where snakes might be warming up underneath. Spiders are pretty chill if you don't fuck with them first. This one made me laugh so hard. Fuck kangaroos. Because I asked in my form, is there any information you want to tell me or fun facts about Australia? And this is what they put. Fuck kangaroos. They are dicks and have cost me more than $20,000 worth of repairs in my car, and I hate them with a passion. I do want to adamantly point out that rural Australia and inner city suburb Australia feels like an entirely different kettle of tea when it comes to snakes. Yeah, like I said, I've not been to the outback. I've never seen a snake in Australia, and I was there for 48 days. But I saw spiders when I was looking for them. And about the biggest spider I've seen, I'm going to show with my hands. If you don't want to see that, look away. But it was about this big that I saw, and I believe it was a golden orb, which I don't think is venomous from my research. Here you go, Woody. People will be scarier than animals if you're not used to being insulted in your face. Just banter, and most of us don't have filters. When I landed in Sydney for my layover this last trip, I get off the bus from international to domestic, and as soon as I get off this bus, this woman yells "fuckwit" to the bus driver driving off. Yeah, they fucked the trucks up. Yeah, I thought it was really funny. Like, it makes sense because kangaroos and like we have deers, right? And so in America, deers will fuck up your car and stuff like that. But I just thought I wasn't expecting this, and it just makes me laugh. Like, it's a very serious thing, you know? But yeah. Anyway, so comparing up, I just made up a new word. Comparing growing up rural and my adult urban life, spiders are way more of a rarity. There are so many less native and wild insects and spiders around modern living areas. You might be lucky to see one spider a month in a dark, dusty corner somewhere nowhere near the amount out in the country hiding under and most every tin roof or gap. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So, here's some fun information. Kangaroos rule Australia. There's 35 million kangaroos as of 2023. Australia's population is 27 million. So it's like 2 kangaroos per every 1 human. But depending on food and drought conditions, their populations can run from 30 million to 60 million. And when I told this to people at the live one I did, they're like, I'm traumatized. What do they do to the kangaroos? And I forgot to tell them, which is probably better that I didn't, that Australians eat kangaroos, but I don't think that's necessarily why the population went down. But according to Google, it was due to food and drought conditions. I think it's like 44% or 42% of Australia doesn't receive rain, whereas like uninhabitable because it doesn't have like rain. So it doesn't surprise me that like the kangaroos, due to the drought and stuff. Um, so kangaroos will run away from you, or they'll try to punch and scratch you. They can kick you. There are kangaroos that they'll come and try to like hug you, and they'll kick you. So they'll try to get you closer to kick you. So you can pet a roo with, you can have a pet kangaroo with special licenses. Usually it's for rehabilitating them, and it's in certain states. So you have to go through a certain process to have them. One of the people that had filled out the form, actually has a pet kangaroo. Not like a pet, like it's not something that you just have in your house. It is still a wild animal. But they do that to, try to keep them alive. This one I believe cannot go back into nature. If I'm incorrect, I'm sorry with that information. But I have heard that this person has had this kangaroo for quite some time, like years. And they can't have any plants around that area because the kangaroos will just eat it and destroy them. But they use a laundry basket to help distract the kangaroo, and they fight that and scratch that instead of them. So this was some information that I have received from xxdoodoo.xx. That's the one cool thing about kangaroos. They're great swimmers and will drown you if you try to fight them in water. So I have heard that they will drown dogs, and from Da, they are great swimmers and will drown you if you try to fight them. They'll like lure their prey or whatever in into the water. So that concludes this information. Does anyone have any questions about my time in Australia, what I learned, if there was any other facts? I know a ton of different things. This was just only touching base on the snakes and spiders, just because I've seen so many people be like, I can't go to that. Yeah, basically don't fuck with anything. There's like, I think there's a heart-shaped plant that I've heard is very like dangerous too. It like has needles if you touch it. I think I heard that too. This also doesn't cover like the water wildlife, because when I was there, I learned about the blue-ringed octopuses. So, one of the people that I had talked to about the form had mentioned that, and they basically had said something about they taught in school about the blue-ringed octopus, and said like, oh, what happens if you get stung by one? And they're like, call for help. And it's like, okay, and then what? And then and they're like, wait there for the help. It's like, and you're dead. So basically, if you get stung by a blue-ringed jelly or a blue-ringed octopus, you're pretty much dead. Yeah, there's some pretty interesting wildlife. Basically, most of the wildlife is, if it's scared of you and it gets a chance to attack, that's like you were too close to it kind of thing. Like they don't just come up to you and just start beating you. You know what I mean? So just be smart. Like I said, I didn't have any issues. Everywhere I went, I would look on the ground and watch where I was going. I was in the bush like a lot, doing like walking trails and stuff. I've posted those on YouTube, and so I would watch where I was going. I did see a lizard. I saw a couple, but one I thought was a snake, and I literally jumped back and I realized, oh, it had these little itty bitty legs. I did see a goanna. Goannas were pretty big, like, yeah. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in for this. I had a lot of fun doing these presentations, and I'd like to do more of them. So if you want to see more of them, let me know. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for tuning in.